Okay, Chaver, good vach, Shavua Tov. Thank you for coming. Be'ezer Hashem, we're going to, together, V'siyata D'Shmaya, experience something very special, very deep, very real. And we just ask as much as possible, just for the time that we're sitting together, to try to mamish keep the talking to as minimum as possible. And really to try to enter into this moment, to enter into this place, to enter into this sphere that we can create together of stillness, of inwardness. With Siyata D'Shmaya, we can accomplish something great. With Hashem's help. Ki ahyol taroye alafike yamayi ki nafshi sarang Elecha Eloki ki ahyol taroye alafike yamayi ki nafshi sarang Elecha Eloki Sama nafshi laloikim lekel choy Uy masaya vay Uy vieira Pinay Eloki Masaya vay Oy vieira pinay Elokim, join me. Oy ki ahyol taroye Oy alafike emaye Oy ki nafshi sarang Elecha Elokim Ki ahyol taroy alafike moyi Ki nafshi sarang Elecha Eloki Sama nafshi leloki lekel choy Oy masaya voy Uy vieira pinay Eloki Masaya voy vieira pinay Eloki. So tonight is something special because tonight is really, in a certain sense, the official kickoff of the organization of Siyata D'Shmaya, and with the tremendous support and help of Naftali Schiff, and many of the Chaver here, all the staff at Jewish Futures, that I was brought here to try and direct and to run, to do something special. For the Yidden here, this is like, this is the launch pad. And so it specifically means so much to me that each and every one of you decided to take of your precious time and to join us. The organization is called Elecha. Elecha means to you. And there are so many different psukim, there are so many different verses that have that word Elecha, to you, toward you, in different contexts. Elecha Hashem nasasi einai. Eilecha Hashem Ekra Vel Hashem Eschana. And there's so many different psukim, so many different verses with this word in different contexts. But I think that the beautiful thing about the word Eilecha is that it carries two connotations. One connotation, Eilecha, means to you with a capital Y, meaning toward HaKadosh Baruch Hu, toward the Master of heaven and earth, toward the Creator of all, to you, up, out, beyond. But the word Eilecha to you also is with a lowercase y. And it means to the inward depth of each and every one of us, to the deepest core of our being. And if we can find two psukim, two verses that capture this, the first is the song that we just sang, Ka'ayal Tareg Alafike Mayim. Like a deer yearns Alafike Mayim on the banks of water, Kein Nafshi Tareg Elecha. So our souls yearn for you. In our brief moments of sunlight, of clarity between the clouds, where we feel stirred by something that comes from very deep. There's got to be something more to life. There's got to be more to this than what meets the eye. Nafshi sareg elecha, that we yearn upward to touch something beyond. And there's another pasuk that says, Ki karov elecha hadavar ma'oid beficha levavcha la'asosei. Referring to the Torah, referring to the mitzvos, referring to our tradition. The Torah testifies, Ki karov elecha hadavar ma'oid. It's very close to you. Elecha to you with a capital Y, and Elecha to you with a lowercase y, that in the truest sense of the word also has a capital Y, because it's the godliness within you. It's the essence, it's the core of who you are. A verse that we're going to read, a pasuk, 2 parshias, 3 parshias, Parshas Hazinu. Hazinu hashamayim va'adaber v'sishma aretz imri fi. Literally means, let the heavens give ear, v'sishma aretz imri fi, let the earth listen to the words that emerge from my mouth. But the Heilige Kazhnitzer Magid, one of the Talmidim of the Magid of Mizrich, one of the early Hasidic masters, says that each and every one of us at this table has 2 parts to our identity. One part is called Aretz, earth. And that part is the external identity of who we are with our past and our future and our disappointments and our aspirations, our memories, our experiences, traumas. Our name, our occupation, what we do on a daily basis, our family circumstances, that's all called Aretz, that's earth. That's the external physical counterpart within your being. But then the Kazhnitzer Magid says that there's a part of you that's called Shamayim. There's a part of you that's called heaven. And it's deeper than all of that. It's deeper than all of that. And that part of you that's called Shamayim is a little point of heavenly untouched essence. That nothing that you could do or have done says anything about, impacts in any which way. It's there, it's pure. It's what we refer to as the Eilecha Melava Malka, a portion of God above that's invested within you. It's a spark of divinity. Unchangeable, untouchable, constantly holy, constantly pure, constantly desiring, and that's what compels us to feel that we're yearning Elecha for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Mesiras Maidah, just in the beginning of this whole project of Elecha, with all of its various iterations and all of its projects and all of what, with Hashem's help, we're going to be able to accomplish in the schools and the shuls, events like these for the community. Our messaging is is only and specifically directed toward the Shemayim aspect of us. Hazinu hashamayim va'adabera. Let that part of the Jewish nation that's called Shamayim, let it listen, let it hear. And then naturally, memela, naturally, v'sishma aretz imrifi. Naturally, if we can speak to each other, if we could speak to our children, if we could speak to our students, in the way relating to the true essence that they carry within the heaven part of them, so then naturally that will spill over into the aspect called aretz and can uplift our lives. But let's stay focused on the essence. Let's stay focused on yearning, on ratzon. And together, with Hashem's help, we can lead lives of connection, of authentic connection, and it's a journey. And this is the invitation for all of you and for anybody that you can spread the word to journey with us, to journey in, to journey beyond. Karov Eilecha davar ma'od. On a pashut pshat, on a simple level, it just means it's very accessible. Karov Eilecha. It's accessible, it's easy. The Torah is referred to as being free. It's free, especially today with the internet. Whatever you want to learn, it's a Google search away. Everything is open on every level. Whatever it is, it's translated into English. It's all laid out in front of you. That's what it means on a simple level. Ki Karov, Eilecha Melava. It's open, it's accessible, it's close. But al pi pnimius, on a deeper level, the understanding is that it's not only close in the sense that it's accessible, ki Karov Elecha, but that the closest part of our identity, when we go down deep to find that place that we referred to as Shamayim, that we have inside of ourselves, what we find there is the Torah in its entirety. It's the closest possible thing to your consciousness, beyond all of the different veils and beyond all of the different walls and the barricades. When we penetrate to the core of who we are and what we are a letter of the Torah. We are a part of the scroll. 3 Jews is a word. A line of Jews is a sentence. All of us in this room, a paragraph in this grand story, and the entire nation is one scroll. Teshuvah is oftentimes conceived of as being something that's foreign. Comes around Elul, for those who aren't Teshuvah-minded the whole year, but at least Elul, we feel sometimes as if we need to contort ourselves. It's like, got to get into shape, It's like, the great judgment day is coming, and we need to twist ourselves into something that we perceive to be unnatural to who we are, because it's different than the way that we ordinarily act. And sometimes we feel like it's a charade. We prepare ourselves for Rosh HaShana, Aseret Teshuvah until Yom Kippur 4 days till Sukkot, and then Sukkot 7 days all the way to Hoshana Rabbah, and then we're free. We're free to be what? We're free to be, unfortunately, what we perceive to be who we, quote-unquote, really are. L'chaim, l'chaim. It's only water. Don't worry. But the truth is, listen to this. The truth is that Chazal tell us, Gedolah Teshuvah shemagasad kisei hakavod, which means that Teshuvah is great because it reaches the throne of glory, the kisei hakavod, God's divine throne. What do we know about the kisei hakavod? What comes from below the kisei hakavod? What comes from underneath that place in the spiritual realm? What is that? Our sages teach, Chazal say, that the souls of the Jewish nation are hewn from underneath the kisei hakavod, underneath that place. Pnei Yaakov chakok ala kisei, the face of Yaakov is etched upon the throne. All of us are descendants from Yaakov. That's our shirish, that's our root. Gedolah Teshuvah, greatest Teshuvah, shemagas ad kisei hakavod, because the process of return, the process of aligning ourselves with the will of God in the healthiest, most beautiful, broad sense of the word, is actually bringing us close to the true identity that we hold within. There's nothing more natural than Teshuvah. There's nothing that feels more right than a Jew stopping and saying, either verbally or thinking, but with eyes raised heavenward, Ribbana Shalom, Master of heaven and earth, I'm ready to align myself with a vision that you had when you put me in this world. I'm ready to live a life of meaning, of purpose, of maturity, of sensitivity, of depth, of warmth. I'm ready to make every second count. There's nothing more natural. And this that we feel sometimes that it's foreign is only because we're so conditioned to living in a lower self, in the aretz part of us, that it's a little bit jolting. But pay attention. You'll feel something. Hazinu hashamayim. There's a place within that's always aligned. There's a place within that's always yearning. It's filled with ratzon. And all the impure thoughts are referred to in the Sfarim HaKadoshim and the holy works as machshavos zaros, which means strange thoughts, foreign thoughts, because they're essentially foreign to who we are. Thoughts that aren't aligned with the ultimate purpose of our mission, which is to channel God into the world and to find Him behind His hiding places, we'll learn. Those are called machshavos zaros because they're essentially foreign to the essence of who we are. And so let's try to sing this niggun again, with that machshava, with that kavana of ki karov Eilecha. It's in here. It's not out there and just super close. We already have it. It's nothing we need to earn. It's something we need to reveal. Ki karov
kamayim nidei
No yechach b'nei Hashem Ayan Shivchi Kamayim Kamayim Libei No yechach b'nei Hashem Ayan Shivchi kamayim kamayim libei no yechach b'nei Hashem ayayam teri layla ilalamu teri layla Shivchi kamayim kamayim libei no yechach b'nei Hashem. Even when you're heading to a place like London, it's not easy leaving Eretz Yisrael. It's not easy, it's very painful. This is as good a place as any, but it ain't Eretz Yisrael. It's not Yerushalayim. It's one of my avodas. One of my avodas is to try as much as I can to remember the Malay Chal Ha'aretz Kavaydai. Not just the glory of God fills the world. Glory is a term that we're not so in touch with. If there's any place that's closer to being able to understand what glory is, it's here and it's now. In Britain with the king and the queen, Allah Shalom. But still, there's a deeper translation. And the deeper translation of kavod is presence. Presence. Presence is an interesting thing, because presence means that a person is present, is here in a given setting. But we also use the word presence in a different connotation, a different context. When we say that a person has presence, what does that mean? How much presence does a person have? When you refer to a person who walks into a room and without anybody knowing that the person walked into the room, you sense it, you feel it. There's a presence that the person has. There's an aura. It's undefinable. It's impossible to measure. It's impossible to put our finger on what it is, but we know that it's there because we feel it. Eilecha Melava Malka means that even though none of us are able to see the Creator, we can't touch Him, we can't feel Him, the physical senses can't apprehend the reality of the spiritual realm. If we allow ourselves to silence the mind and to magnify our inner receptibility, we can feel at great moments and even ordinary moments that then become great. That the entire earth is filled not with His glory, but with His presence. We feel that we're in the presence of something that's beyond us, but of something that's within us. At every moment of our day, we can feel this. If we stop, we stand still, close our eyes, we can feel that we're not alone. We're not alone. In this room, we're not alone, even though we're surrounded by people. There's a presence that envelops us. The Zohar Kadosh says, "Memala kol almin, v'soiviv kol almin." That God surrounds all worlds and God fills all worlds. He's real. He's within everything. Sometimes we need to shift our conception of this 3-letter word. We say God. That word means different things to different people. But if we can broaden our perception of what this thing might mean and how we can define this thing called God, the Creator, the spiritual life force, the infinite one that suffuses everything, that created and sustains all of this, that loves us, then we can feel Him Emalakal Almin, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us. No matter how rainy, no matter how cloudy, no matter how dark and dismal and hopeless it may seem, we're not alone. We're never alone. So join me if you know it. If you don't know it, it's an easy song to learn. Mimale kol almin v'soyvei kol almin umi baladecha ein shu mitzius klal mimale kol almin v'sogevei kol almin umi baladecha ein shu mitzius klal v'mimale kol almin v'sogevei kol almin umi baladecha ein shu mitzius klal v'mimale kol almin v'sogevei kol almin umi baladecha ein shu mitzius klal. Let's do it with English. Lord, you fill our worlds and surround all the world. And Lord, without you, there is no world at all. Lord, you fill our world. And Lord, without you, there is no world at all. Lord, you fill our world and surround all world. And Lord, without you, oh, there is no world at all. Mimale kol almin v'sogevei kol almin umi baladecha ein shu mitzius klal. Join me. Diddy die die die. Diddy die die. Diddy die na die na die na bam bam amudo diddy die la 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 diddy da do do no diddy die la 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 na na diddy die la la did I la 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 die die la And Lord, without you, oh, there is no world at all. Hamilucha v'yamem shalom v'yamilucha v'yamem shalom v'lecha yo'elam megid v'yamilucha v'yamem shalom v'yamilucha v'yamem shalom v'lecha yo'elam v'yamilucha v'yamem shalom v'yamilucha v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam yamelucha v'yamem shalom lucha v'yamem Elecha yo'elam hey yamelucha v'yamem v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam hey yamelucha v'yamem shalom Hamelucha v'yamem hey yamelucha v'yamem shalom v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam yamelucha v'yamem hey, why are you guys sitting? Let's go, let's go, let's go. V'yamem shalom Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam hey Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam hey Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Hamelucha hey Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Hamelucha Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Hamelucha v'yamem shalom one more time hey Hamelucha Hamelucha v'yamem shalom Elecha yo'elam Elecha l'chaim l'chaim L'chaim, l'chaim. Okay, so b'siyata d'shmaya, with the help of the Master of the World, just to share a few short thoughts of Torah, together b'siyata d'shmaya. And again, even before saying anything, just to reiterate, my personal appreciation for you coming means a great, great deal to me, each and every neshama. We said before, every Jew is a letter, every 3 Jews is a word. And so the specific letters that choose to show up in a particular setting changes the context and the content of whatever message is being shared. And again, to encourage each and every one of us to walk out and to let people know that there's something happening at 379 Hendon Way, that there's something happening. Something's beginning, and it's beginning tonight. And it's continuing b'siyata d'shmaya every Thursday night subsequent. We're having learning called Face to Face in the JF base. With Hashem's help, with my humble self, Harav Daniel Rosh Shlita, other staff who are going to be running chaburas, and then Be'ezer Hashem, I'm going to be giving shir every Thursday night. Everybody's welcome. Bring your friends with good food and learning and good camaraderie energy. Next week, this time, almost, with Hashem's help, starting at 11 p.m., we're doing a musical slichus in this room. With Hashem's help, I'll be leading together with all the chevra, and we're going to try, in addition to working within the schools and within the shuls, to turn this place into a great bastion of feeling and connection. It already is, but to heighten that, turn up the flame, and to really turn it into like a flamethrower, to really light up the whole London, to really light it up, we could do it. It's easy. It's so easy, it's a joke. It's mamash a joke. And so with Hashem's help, I want to express that Akar Satev to you, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you to our authentic connection. Rosh HaShana is referred to as Hayom Haras Olam. Hayom Haras Olam means that Rosh HaShana is the day that the world is created. But the truth is that the world isn't created on Rosh HaShana. Adam and Chava are created on Rosh HaShana. Rosh HaShana is the birthday of Adam. It's the birthday of Chava. It's also the day of the sin. The deviation from the whole purpose of the essence of Rosh HaShana, which is to be Mamlich, the master of heaven and earth, to crown him king, to recognize his presence, his mark on everything in the Bria. Even here I noticed they have, I don't know if they're still in operation, but those red mailboxes on the corners, they still work? Okay, so they have a crown on it. What does that mean? It means that this is a part of something royal. And so we develop the right eyes, every flower that we see, every person that we meet, every breath that we take has a crown on it. It's marked. It's part and parcel of a sovereignty. It's part and parcel of something that we're part of. It has the imprint of the Creator. Rosh Hashanah's Hayom Haras Olam. But how was Adam and Chava created? In what strange form, says the Medrash? HaKadosh Baruch Hu created them called du partsufim. Hashem created Adam and Chava back to back first, conjoined into one being. And then there was the process called Nesira, at least in the Kabbalistic Sefarim, it's called Nesira, the sawing apart. And then Chava becomes a separate entity, and Adam becomes a separate entity. It's a little bit different than the conception of Chava being created from one of the ribs of Adam. There are different approaches, different understandings, different levels. But this vision sees Adam and Chava back to back, conjoined into one body, and then they're sawed apart. Now, on the one hand, it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing that they're sawed apart. Because can you think of anything so close as literally being one being with another person, one being, like mamish, in one wrapping, so to speak? One physical manifestation. It's so intimate, it's so close. But the deepest thing is to know, mamish, this point is just so deep and it's so many levels. It's true they were one being. But it's only upon being sawed apart that they could ever possibly turn around and meet each other face to face. This is very, very deep. It's a very, very deep sod. It's a deep secret. Panim bepanim. The deeper svarim, the deeper texts tell us that although Adam and Chava existed as their own historical personalities, personas, Adam is also a reference to the master of heaven and earth. It's called Adam HaYoshev Al HaKisei. Hashem is called Adam. Hashem is called Ish. Hashem Ish Milchama. And Chava, who's the mate of Adam, is a reference to the Jewish nation. That by Har Sinai, by the giving of the Torah, it's like the wedding. Al Tikri Marasha Al Ma'irasa. There's a wedding that takes place between the groom with a capital G, God, Adam, the male, and Am Yisrael, the Jewish nation, who exist as the Eishes Chayil, Ateres Bala, as the bride. So the deepest thing that we need to know is that the Jewish nation, just like Chava to Adam, was originally part and parcel of God Himself. Man de nafach, like the Chaver learning in Tanya, mitoiche nafach. Hashem blew the spirit into Adam from within himself. But ultimately, things didn't remain on that level of Ein Sof, just infinite godliness. Whatever that means. Our minds can't even grasp, not the godliness part and not the infinite part. Maybe it's one and the same. Infinity. Can't grasp it. But things didn't remain that way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu went through the process of constricting that infinite light in stage after stage after stage after stage to finally create a physical world within which the Jewish nation could be brought to life in the context of a humanity that they were then charged with shining a light that could illuminate the entirety of the world. Now that's a terrible thing, because that's a sawing apart. That means that we went from being literally included within God's spiritual being to existing with a separate consciousness that we experience as being separate, that I have a name and I have thoughts, and these thoughts are not God's thoughts. The pasuk says, "Lo machshavosai machshavosechem, rabas machshavas b'levish, va'atzas Hashem yisakum." Right? There's a distinction between myself and the self from which I derive. So why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do this? Wouldn't it have been better if we could exist in that place within the infinity? Like a ray of light nullified to the sun itself? But the answer is that the whole sod, the whole secret, the whole purpose, the whole premise of creation was HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving us the opportunity, in being sought apart from Him, so to speak, and existing as an independent, separate consciousness, to turn ourselves around and to meet Him face to face and connect in a deeper way than we ever could have connected before, when we were literally part of Him, which is an amazing chesed. It's an amazing kindness, because we were part of Him, but over here He gives us the confidence to stand up and to interact with Him on a personal, intimate level, face to face. This is the great opportunity of living. This is the opportunity of a physical world with families and kids and jobs and cars and all the different circumstances that we find ourselves surrounded in throughout the human condition. But it's a great challenge as well, because with the gift of separateness comes the risk of getting so caught up in the fact that we exist as a separate consciousness that we forget about the purpose of life in the first place, which is to turn ourselves around and see all of life as an opportunity for contact with the divine. And instead we get lost in our own little game. Asa lekimas adam yashar, the pasuk says God created man yashar, straight, walking on the straight and narrow with a mission. Because we know that the closest way between 2 points is a straight line, right? It means to say that Hashem created the human being for a purpose. We're going somewhere. We're here for a reason. V'heima bikshu cheshbonos rabim, and then we get lost. We get lost. And we start to fall prey to the illusion of our separateness to the point that we no longer even remember that there is a source from which we derive, that there is a face that we're supposed to be turning to meet in the deepest, most intimate way. We get lost. This chain of progression from which infinity turns into the finite world that we experience around us takes the form of a 4-stage process. Each of these stages has millions of stages in between. It's very complex. But on a simple level, 4 stages. These 4 stages are what we refer to in Kabbalah or in Hasidus as the 4 worlds. Arba oilamos, 4 worlds. And these are not worlds like there are different planets. Okay, this is planet Earth, and there's that world, and there's that world. No, it means that there are 4 stages, 4 dimensions within creation, each of which is further and further and further away from that pure, unfiltered godliness. Each of which seems to take on more and more of an independent hue. And these 4 worlds are called Atzilus, which comes from the Hebrew word etzlo, which means it's closest to that place of infinity. That's what is referred to in the Sfarim as ayin, nothingness, which really means everythingness. But from our standpoint, it's just there's nothing but God in that place. Ayin. Then there's the world of Bria, the world of creation, which is referred to as yesh me ayin. All of a sudden something emerges from the ayin, something comes from nothing. That then proceeds to the world of Yitzira, which is the world of formation, which takes that material and starts to form it into something that's referred to as yesh mi yesh. Once there's silly putty, there's material, so now you can start to form it into different things. And then finally, the last stage is referred to as the world of Asiya, the world of action, which is referred to in the Sfarim as yesh. A concrete reality with a physical table and atoms and different energies that appear to us to be cemented into reality. Asiya, the world of Asiya. These 4 stages are wrapped up into the name that we usually use to refer to the divine being, which has 4 letters, Yud, K, Vav, K. Yud and a Hey, and then a Vav and a Hey. We don't pronounce this name. Instead, we say Adni, Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud. But when we say Hashem, this is what it means, Hashem, right? The name. When the Sfarim want to refer to the name, because they can't actually say it, we call it the Shem Havaya. Why do we call it the Shem Havaya? Because the word Havaya is Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. Just it's switched around, different letters, so we can actually pronounce it, because we can't pronounce Yud, Ke, Vav, Ke. We don't even know how to pronounce it. But the Shem Havaya is the word that we use to refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But that word has a meaning. And the meaning of Havaya is existence. And it means that the name Yud Ke Vav Ke has all of existence with all the stages and all the levels of Ayin and the Yesh Me Ayin and the Yesh Me Yesh and the Yesh, all of it folded up into it. And indeed there are 4 letters. And so the first letter is a Yud, and that's going to correspond to the world of Atzilus. The second letter is a Hey, that's going to correspond to the world of Bria. The third letter is a Vav, that's referring to the world of formation, Yitzira. And then finally, the final Hey, that's where we're at. This world, Chazal tell us, Ki b'ka Hashem tzur elamim, with the letters Yud and Hey, God created worlds. Why worlds? Olam haba and Olam hazeh, the world to come and the physical world. This world was created with the letter Hey. This is the world that we're surrounded by. What's our tafkid? What's our purpose in life? Is to see this world and appreciate it as being part and parcel of God's name. Not something that God tolerates, not something that God cares somewhat about. Part and parcel of Him. That we cannot say the name Hashem without including this world within the Shem HaMefurish. That's our task. What does it mean to err? What does it mean, lachto, to sin, which is a terrible translation. It's a made-up word. Because it means, chet doesn't mean to sin, it was a sin. It means to miss. That's what the word chet means, lahachtia tamatara, to miss the goal. What happens when we miss? Meaning, what happens when we start to look at our independence as something that's meant to be enjoyed in and of itself without realizing that all of life is about turning around to face Hashem panim al panim? We start to see the world as a letter Hey, but it's detached from the name of Hashem. We fall prey to the illusion of separateness. Say Chazal, the word Teshuvah, which means to return, is actually two words wrapped up into one. Tashuv Hey Limekoima. To return the letter Hey to its rightful place in the name Yud Ke Vav Ke. To again begin to live with a consciousness that every single thing that we encounter, every single experience, frustrating, mundane, lowly as it may seem, the mundane drive, the daily work week, 9 to 5, sitting at an office desk, dealing with crying kids, throwing a tantrum in the middle of a supermarket. It's raining and we don't have an umbrella. Just life. Life. To see life, every single breath, as an opportunity to recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to find Him, and to interact with Him, face to face, panim el panim. To look at the world, and we can train ourselves to do this, to look at other people, this that we take humanity for granted as if it's a normal thing. It's not a normal thing. None of this is normal. There's no such thing as nature. Everything's a miracle. The fact that I'm speaking and your ears are working to listen and you can have eyes that see, it's a miracle. To see all of this as part of the Shem HaMefurish. To see all of this as part and parcel of the revelation of God. Eilecha Melava Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin, in two places that I'm aware of, with my limited experience with Reb Tzadok, he says a story, which is very rare for Reb Tzadok. Brings a story, the same story in two places. He says that the famous Hasidic brothers, the Rebbe Reb Meilech and the Rebbe Reb Zusha, were once in the forest, and they spent their whole day in the forest doing their avodas. They were learning, they were davening, they were doing yichudim, Kabbalistic unifications. They were talking very deeply and authentically and with a lot of vulnerability. And soon they noticed that the sun is beginning to set. And so they have to daven mincha, the sun is setting. And they need a minyan. And so thank you for coming. And they decide, okay, we have to start walking out of the forest because we have to get back to the village. So they start to walk and they start to move. When they come to the end of the forest, to a clearing, they notice there's a dirt road. And they're starting to get closer and closer to the village. All of a sudden they hear a tremendous sound, a loud sound of approaching horses. Galloping super quickly, very fast. Careening around the corner is a peasant driving two horses and a wagon piled up with what even in that language was called hay. We call it hay here too. But even in that, in Ukrainian, was called hay. Piled up hay. Hits a rock, and the whole wagon tips over and the hay falls all over the place. And it's his luck. I mean, they're two human beings in the middle of the wilderness. And he asks them, he sees the Rebbe Zusha, the Rebbe Meilech, can you help us? Can you help me put the hay back on the wagon? Can you help me put the hay back? And the Rebbe Meilech is conscious of the time, and he's looking at his watch, and he says, I'm sorry, we're in a rush. We have to get back for evening prayers. We just can't. And he starts to yell at them. He says, it's not that you can't put back the hay. You don't even want to put back the hay. And the Rebbe Zusha starts crying. The Rebbe Zusha starts crying. So the Rebbe Meilech turns to him and he says, what's going on here? He said, don't you hear what he's saying? It's not that you cannot put back the hay of Yud Ke Vav Ke, of Hashem's name. You don't even want to put back the hay. And this chaver is very deep, because it's very, very challenging to live in this way. It's hard. Hashem did a great job. It's very challenging to maintain this consciousness. This is the struggle of life. And every moment is the battleground. But the one thing that we can do is to want it. The one thing that we can do is express our desire verbally, in English, when we take a moment to be alone, enveloped by the living presence of God, to say, Master of heaven and earth, I want you. I want you. I want to live a life of elevation. I want to live a life of meaning. I want to live a life where I can be a channel to bring your light down into the world. I want to lift people up. I want to recognize you. I want to bring Mashiach closer. I want to be a vessel for that light. And in so doing, on Rosh HaShana, when the whole process takes place, when Chava is sawed away from Adam, so to speak, we return to the consciousness for which that process took place. Every Rosh Hashanah again. Ein lanu melech ela ata. To realign ourselves to the most natural kind of living. Ki karov Eilecha hadavar ma'od. To begin again to live with a mission, with a clarity into what the purpose of all of this is, and so that we can bring that to others with Hashem's help. Let's close with one slow niggun, and then we'll dance a little bit more with Hashem's help. Thank you for coming.
Da 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 da.
Ayela na na mahina na mahaya na ayamaya. Okay, we'll dance a little bit, but I just want also to tell you that in front of you on the paper you'll see these flyers. They have a QR code that leads to a WhatsApp group. A lot of content that we're going to be sending out Be'ez Hashem on social media, on WhatsApp particularly. And really honestly, the main thing is that we ask of each and every one of us, because it has to grow exponentially. Share the link with your friends. Tell them about it. Anybody you know who you feel can benefit from this kind of messaging, from these kind of experiences. We really want to build a community that's not defined by how you look on the outside, not defined by any part of the Aretz identity. That's Kol Kulai L'Shem Shemayim, right? Meaning, for that part of us that's Shemayim, where we're literally all the same, no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, whatever your background might be, whatever your affiliation is, whatever shul you daven in, however you look. Mamash, we need to break down all those boundaries. We're getting close to Mashiach now. These are Kleinigkeiten. It's too small to consider. We must get together deeply, deeply, deeply for real. And so we want to expand the circle to bring Chaver in, B'siyata Deshmaya, so that we can bring them in, and together we can go up and in together with Hashem's help. Eliyahu Anavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu Agita, Eliyahu Anavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu Agita. Hey, Meira, Yahabo, Yeleinu, Haye Mashiach ben David, Meira, Yahabo, Yeleinu, Mashiach ben David, Dididaya la la, Dididaya la dididada. Eliyahu Anavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu Hagila, David Meira, Yavo Yeleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David. La 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 da 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 la la da la 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 da da la 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 ay la da 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 la la da da la 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 eh da 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 la la da la 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 hey la 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 aha dido la 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 eh la 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 eh la da ay la 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 ay la 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 eh adana la 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 ay ay la 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 aha yaho la 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 ay la 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 hey la 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 eh la la ay la 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 ya la eh la 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 ya la ma ya ya la 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 ay la 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 eh la 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 Hashem misimcha, Yidu es Hashem misimcha. Benana lefana benana. Hey, Yidu es Hashem misimcha, Yidu es Hashem misimcha. Lefana benana. Hey! Yidu es Hashem misimcha, Yidu es Hashem misimcha, Levana benana. Yidu es Hashem misimcha, Yidu es Hashem misimcha, Levana benana. Mitzvah gedayla liyaz besimcha liyaz besimcha besimcha tamid oy mitzvah gedayla liyaz oy liyaz besimcha besimcha tamid Rabbeinu sha'ak lekayel gadol ein shom yegosh ein shom yosh ba'alam ba Rabbeinu sha'ak lekayel gadol Liyan besimcha besimcha amid hay mitzvah gedayla liyan besimcha liyan besimcha ay betahli baynu li abdecha bi amas betahli baynu oh li abdecha bi ay betahli baynu li abdecha bi
Thank you guys so much for coming. L'chaim Gedava. Have a blessed week, a Shabbos week. Yes, benching now forever washed.